So, good evening, folks. Welcome to Eyeway Encounters. And today we are going to be speaking about opportunities. We're talking about content development and opportunities in content development. And we have a guest speaker who most of us know, but let me still introduce you. I met him first in 2002 at Chennai when he came as a youngster, freshly blinded, came to interview me while the second World Cup of cricket for the blind was happening. And he was covering it for All India Radio at that time. And then he went on to become a print journalist. And he's had a long innings with Deccan Herald in Bangalore. And now he is also got into a lot of content development on different platforms, and I think it was triggered by the pandemic. So the pandemic got him to think about newer opportunities, and he's found himself a niche, and he'll talk to us about it. He also has written a book, an autobiography called Lights Out. So without taking too much of your time, Subbu, I hand over the mic to you, and I'm going on mute. The stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, George. Thank you for this opportunity. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the session. As George was mentioning, my name is Subramani, and I was blinded by a condition called retinitis pigmentosa. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. And I finished my master's with Loyola College, Chennai, and then I did my postgraduate diploma in journalism from Bharati Vidya Bhavan, also Chennai. Then I had a 5 years of freelancing career. After that, I became a journalist with Deccan Herald, where I continued to work as a chief copy editor. And my regular chores or regular tasks at Deccan Herald include, editing, rewriting, headline writing, besides, writing book reviews and interviewing people and so on. So that's the brief about my job. But also, apart from job, I'm very obsessed with writing as a craft. So during the pandemic, as George was mentioning, I started to explore copywriting. And then, it became a passion. And I should say that today I'm in a position where, I write copies just for fun. It's not anything commercial as yet, but, whatever I've written also sort of helped a lot of commercial companies. Okay. So that's the brief about me. So let us also put certain things forward right now. One is whether it's copywriting or any kind of writing, the first thing that you should have is interest for writing. What are the requirements for learning this, or what are the basic things that you require? Okay. Number one, you should have interest for writing. Today, of course, if you're a person with blindness or with any disability, technology is very helpful today to let you write and produce content of your own. Number two is it is very, very crucial to get the basics right. You got to go back and learn your basics. Even if you are interested in writing, your basics should be correct. Your ability to write clear and perfect language in a clear and perfect language is a definite requirement. And if you're looking for any tips or tricks in terms of your basics, this is probably not the place for you. You'll have to go back and learn, or maybe you have to connect with me privately to get some idea on that. Okay. Now, having said all that, let us get into what is copywriting. Okay. So copywriting is what it says what it is, writing copies. Okay. Now, what are these copies and what are they how are they different from any kind of writing? All right. So let's examine a few things that is in front of us. Okay. You have a film script, for example, or take a short story, where I remember the short story by R.K. Narayan called The Blind Dog. The blind dog is about a blind man exploiting a very submissive dog. Okay. Good writing, absolutely fantastic writing. And then you keep it aside and take someone like Joe Sugarman. More about this gentleman later, but just get this name to yourself now. Just acquainted with this name, Joe Sugarman. So Joe Sugarman has a lots of copies, quote unquote, written, and read that. Okay. So it starts by saying, get the best experience of travel. This is the ultimate comfort. Okay. It's all written in huge letters. Here's the secret of a longer life. Again in caps, in bold letters. So what is the difference between a short story and a copy? So basically, a copy is something that has a certain persuasive ability. A general writing or generally persuasive writing is always good. You can apply it even in general writing, but it is more important in copywriting. Okay. What is persuasion? Persuasion is the ability to convince people that, whatever the product or service or whatever you are describing is the best in the world. Okay. So copywriting is about persuasion. Number one, that you should remember. Copywriting is about persuasion. Second one, you should remember about copywriting is target audience. Copywriting is not meant for generally anyone. Okay. Why? Because see, when you talk about a product or a service, it is basically meant for someone. Okay. Take, for example, you have, the hair gel. Okay. I'm giving you a simple example so that it's easier to understand. So hair gel can be something which is traditional, like a coconut oil. Hair gel can be something which is modern and very swanky and very, very, attractive for youngsters, such as a Brill cream. I don't know whether Brill cream is continuing to be the brand, but I'm just using the name for the sake of example. So you have targets. So if it's a traditional hair gel or a hair oil, then your target is different. And then if it's modern, the target is different. Again, if you're targeting women, suppose if you have a hair oil that is supposed to be protective of your hair, then the audience is different. You're talking about women here. And then if it's about style, it's about panache, it's about presenting yourself in a very modern way, that's different. So you clearly see that there is a target. So who are you writing to? Who are you speaking to? Who's your audience? So fixing that is a very it's very important. That is number 2. Number 3 is that a target audience. Fixing a target audience is okay, but what else the copy should do? What else the copy writing should do? We said persuasion, right? So persuasion also means you are kind of talking to the person in a close and an intimate way. The way you talk to the person, they should think that, yeah, this is exactly what I want. This is the solution that I want. How many times, when we were in the dark days of, pre-internet or pre-technology era, how many times people will just, kind of look at something and think, I wish I had a way to access this machine. or I had an access to this computer. So there was a time in probably 1998 or so. I remember this was a year into my, probably some months into my journalism. I happened to interview a blind lawyer in Chennai, and he proudly displayed a system with JAWS installed in it. And then I was watching and I was really going, oh God, why am I not getting this? And then that was the time when, technology was expensive, extremely expensive and extremely out of reach for a lot of blind people. So what would be the persuasion for someone like me? Imagine that's you. Imagine that you are that person. What would, if you write something, how do you persuade that person to buy? Number one, a cheaper, available accessibility solution. A cheaper and a widely available accessibility solution. Correct? So that is your emotional appeal, or that's called the emotional appeal. Imagine someone turning a light bulb inside your head and you forget the fact that you are blind. Fantastic, right? So if you write something like that, what happens is immediately the person begins to think the benefits of the product. So you're doing two things here. One is you're highlighting the problem, and then you are presenting the product, and then you are actually making them get into the mindset where the product is an ideal solution for them. Okay, so that is the emotional appeal. All right, the last point that I would like to talk about in terms of what copywriting can do is the most important thing that you will never find in any other form of writing. Maybe political literature, maybe, if I'm permitted to say, religious literature. Maybe it's not even that explicit in any of these things. Not this explicit. It's called CTA. What is CTA? Call to action. So it's not enough if you write a fantastic description of a product, and then, if it's about, say, a soft drink, you kind of almost make the person salivate, mouth-watering. Not enough. You should tell them what they should do, because sometimes people need to be led by their hand when it comes to copywriting. Okay, so what do you do here? You tell them exactly what they should do. Hurry, buy it now. It's available 50% cheap. So all these are very familiar to you, right? When I say these are things that that are very familiar because you would have read it somewhere or heard it somewhere, right? So call to action is absolutely necessary for a copywriting, for a copy, for copywriting and for a copy. Okay, so you got to be very, very clear about what you want the person to do. Okay, so these are the differences. Okay, so the purpose of, okay, let's recap a little bit on what we said. The purpose of copywriting is basically to persuade, to convince a person to sell. Okay, marketing and sales is the absolute target, the purpose of copywriting. Okay, number two is that copywriting talks about presenting a product, presenting a problem, providing a solution, and then not just providing a solution, but almost making them feel the comfort, the benefit of the solution. For example, if you have a lot of people have this cracks in their heels, and it's so painful sometimes. Okay, so if you're providing a solution, people will be very, very happy because you can almost make them feel walking with comfort without feeling the cracks in their heels that can be very painful. So emotionally appealing to them, almost providing that mental simulation in terms of how they would feel if they really use the solution is something that you do. And finally, of course, the call to action. Okay. Now, what are the kinds of copywritings we have? When you say copywriting is basically for marketing and sales, and it is for certain you can kind of tailor it. You can kind of make it specific to a certain product, a certain solution, certain brands, and everything else. So, what are the kinds of copywriting we have? Let's see. First one, the most famous, of course, is advertising. So, advertising is you see everywhere. If you look at a magazine, you see that a magazine carries a headline, and then there's a picture, and then there are descriptions of the product and everything else, as we mentioned earlier. So you find that is the most common form of copywriting that you see. Okay. Second one, again, this used to be a very, very common thing. I don't know how common it is right now, but I guess what we're going to talk about is already kind of transformed itself into the digital space, which is called the direct response copy. A direct response copy is actually something that some of the best and the most leading copywriters in the world have tried and succeeded. You talk about my favorite guy is a guy called Clayton Makepeace. Clayton Makepeace, I happened to listen to one of his lectures, and such a fantastic speaker. One thing that you should give it to guys like Clayton and guys like Dr. Joe Vitale and Nick Osborne and people like that is basically they speak in a way. I mean, not just writing. The way they speak is extremely persuasive, and so wonderful. You feel like listening to them for a couple of days. Just search for Clayton Makepeace in YouTube, and you will get a lot of his video. He's passed away. He's no more. He's no longer alive, but he's left a huge body of work, which is excellent. So yeah, so direct response copy is something that Clayton and I think you take anyone what they're sold have used and have established themselves. They have sold millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of product by direct response copywriting. Okay. The third one is something very recent, something which is very important. If you're learning copywriting right now, this is a skill that you should, it's a must-have skill. It's called SEO copywriting. What is SEO? Very simple, search engine optimization. Okay, search engine optimization is, basically, when you search for a product or a service or anything on Google, you find, certain links are showing on the top. So the purpose of a copywriter, when it comes to certain websites or certain products or certain e-commerce sites, is to make sure that they write the copy in a certain way in which they kind of become very prominent and available for Google search algorithm to pick them up and put them on top when someone is searching that precise word. Okay, so the trick here is what kind of words that people are searching for and how best I can use it in my copy. That's SEO, copywriting for you in a nutshell. Okay. Next one is web copywriting. So web copywriting is something, I can tell you that SEO and web copywriting are the kind of copywriting that I do these days. And web copywriting, I can tell you one thing. A lot of people think that web copywriting is you put the details and everything else takes care of itself. No. In web copywriting, you should understand that your website is basically a platform to market. How many times people buy a space in a newspaper or in a magazine spending so much money. But, people forget these days that, the website is the kind of space that you need to advertise and market your own product. So the content that you put in there is the best that you require. Okay. So you should know basically the persuasion, all that we've spoken about earlier, the persuasion and everything else applies for web copywriting also. Okay. The next one is, of course, very, very familiar to all of us, which is social media copywriting. So you talk about social media writing. There are specifically, you should remember that it has to be brief, it has to be very captivating, very persuasive, and of course, also call to action. Okay, social media. Also, sometimes, it can be an infograph, it can be a digital posters, uh, okay, sometimes I spend writing a lot of captions for digital posters. But again, you should remember that whatever you do should connect with the audience. That is a challenge as far as copywriting is concerned. Okay, and then the next one is content marketing copywriting. So what is content marketing? Content marketing copywriting can present itself in many ways. So you talk about advertising versus content marketing. That's the kind of a topic that you now normally get discussed in many companies, agencies, and many places. What is the difference between advertising and content marketing? As I said, content marketing, you have the assets, you have the space, you have everything in your control. You can, for example, create a blog post and talk about your product, and then there's a way in which you can attract the kind of audience that you look for, and then make sure that they become your customers. See, there is, again, if you want to read more about it, I would recommend a guy called Kyle Gray. His book called The Story Engine is something that I enjoyed reading, and he talks a lot about how blogs can become your content marketing tool, your go-to marketing strategy. And he says that you don't necessarily have to get sales. Sales alone need not be your target, because if you want a better brand familiarity, then regular content writing is something that can help you, especially blogs. And he gives a couple of examples. I'll tell you, this one I really liked. There was a woman who kind of had a gymnasium, a local gymnasium in one of the US cities, and then she had about 100 clients. And then of course, what happened? The pandemic happened. The pandemic happened. Everything came to a halt. Everything came to a halt. Okay, so this woman lost her livelihood. Okay, because the gym is closed and there's a lockdown and nobody else. So that time, what she did was she turned her whole knowledge into content. Okay, that's when she started putting out content saying, how can you live a painless life? You do certain exercises and you live a painless life. So she started writing blog posts on it, and then she started producing digital courses, all of which made about 1 million people have become her clients now, instead of just 100 people in a local area. So that is the transformation that this content marketing can create. You read Kyle Gray. Kyle Gray gives a lot of examples of how you can convert your audience into A, your customer, B, your cheerleader. See, today I may not be needing something like what do you call a bike or a car or something, but I may be reading about it, or I may have a person who's creating content around the cars. Suppose my brother-in-law wants to buy a car, I can always suggest something. I can always suggest him to check out this particular guy who is writing or talking about or producing content about cars. So now, the way I'm talking about Kyle Gray to you right now, Kyle Gray, you may not know him, but now I'm talking about him, right? So I may not buy Kyle Gray's book, but I'm promoting him here, which is beneficial to him, right? So that is B, someone who becomes your cheerleader. C, someone who becomes your partner or an employee. Okay, I like the way Kyle Gray creates his content. There's an alignment already because I perfectly understand what he's talking about. I know his goals, his targets. I would like to also become a part of his team, okay, in some capacity. Okay, so I either collaborate or I become his employee, which is also a benefit for him because he's adding, more heft and meat to the team. And last but not the least, I may have millions of rupees or millions of dollars. I may like what Kyle Gray is doing. So I want to go straight away, invest $1 million, or maybe if not $1 million, at least $100,000 or 200,000, which is, I do it out of passion, I'm driven by the content to do it. Okay. So that is the power of content marketing for you. Okay. So somebody asked about the direct response copy. I would suggest two books for you to go and refer to. Number one is Hypnotic Writing by Dr. Joe Vitale. Last name spelled Vitale. Joe Vitale is also the guy who acted in Rhonda Burns' movie, The Secret. Okay, he's discussed a lot of that. And in that, you find a lot of examples of, direct response marketing. Also, the Robert Collier sales book. Again, it has lots of them, and all these are available on Amazon. So you can go and check them out. Direct response is basically, for example, I'm sending you a letter. So how it works is very simple. I'm not going through a magazine. I'm not going through television or radio or whatever. I am writing to you directly saying that, hey, I have a product. This product can work miracles for you. And then, because I'm approaching you directly, I'm selling it for 50% less cost. Hurry and buy. So I'm just giving you a sort of in gist what that letter would say. Of course, you got to use your persuasive skills. You have to use everything else. But in specific, that's what it says. You drop say 100,000 letters to your contacts, your friends, or your regular customers, because those days copywriters also used to have regular followers. Joe Sugarman, you read, there's a book called the Adweek Copywriter. Okay, and then if you read that book, it's a very costly book. You have to spend 1,600 rupees to buy it on Kindle, but it's worth your money because every rupee that you spend, because he gives plenty of examples of what is direct response copywriting. Okay, and he has made millions and millions of dollars. I mean, these are very wildly successful people. And I'm talking about pre-internet era. I'm not even talking about the internet. I'm talking about the pre-internet era. If you want how direct response copywriting or digital copywriting can work, read Hypnotic Writing by Dr. Joe Vitale. That's my recommendation. And definitely, and the Joe Vitale's books are available on Bookshare. In case you are part of Bookshare, just search for Dr. Joe Vitale, and you'll find all his books, including Hypnotic Writing. Okay, I hope that answers that. That's a kind of a satisfying answer for your question about the direct response marketing. But anyway, let me just carry on. Now, what are the skills that you should have as a content writer or a copywriter? See, content and copy can be interchangeable. Let me tell you in the beginning itself. You, as a copywriter, you write a copy in a traditional sense, or you also write a piece of content that can be anything. As we were talking about, it can be a video script, or it can be a social media post, or it can be anything. In modern parlance, it is mentioned as content, but it's basically copywriting. Okay, so let's talk about, what are the skills that you need to have if you're a copywriter. The first and probably the most obvious thing is strong writing skills. Okay. Now you may ask me, what do you mean by strong writing skills? What is strong, quote unquote? So understand the dynamics of writing. What is the dynamics of writing? Let me dispel a myth that generally we all carry in our heads. We all think that writing is an intellectual exercise, a cerebral exercise. It shows your intellectual, whatever, uh, might. No, I would say no. That's where, you know, that's not, probably we are wrong. In many countries, especially where English is spoken as a first language, they write the way they speak. Okay. Now, it happens to us when we operate in our own first languages, in our own mother tongues. Mother tongue, maybe, sometimes it's a very disputed term, but yeah, for the sake of understanding. So conversational writing, how you talk, the way you write, they should be perfectly the same. Okay. You don't have to try. My teacher always used to say that writing is not impression. You don't write to impress, but you write to express. Okay. You write to express an idea, thought, or anything that you want other person to understand. And there's another teacher of mine who always used to say that you take yourself out of your writing. Okay. You take yourself out of your, what does it mean? It means you don't have to write. You don't have to insert your opinions into something. Even in book writing, they say this, just tell the story. You don't have to get in the way of your character or your, subject telling something. Okay. So that's what is getting the author out of the story. What happens is it becomes very natural and very, easy to read and understand, easy to understand kind of a material, whatever you write. So strong writing skills would also mean understanding the 3 essential ingredients of writing. Again, I'm not getting into grammar. I'm not getting into any of that. I'm only talking about the 3 basic ingredients of writing, which you should understand, which you can use from book writing to blog writing to copywriting to any writing. Okay. Okay. What are these? Number 1, description. Okay. Number 1, description. The ability to describe what is there around you. Okay. And if you have the problem of blindness, or if you're not able to observe what's in around you, you know how to get these things done these days. If you have seeing AI, in my days, early days as journalist, I remember writing a copy about. I went to meet an there's an inauguration of an educational institution, a school, and I was talking to the person who founded the school. This happened in a hotel, and then of course they were serving us tea and other things. So she was talking to me, and then suddenly she turned to that waiter and she said, "Wow, cheesecake! I love them. You give me one." So what happened? I was very mischievous back then, so I was writing something she said inside the quotes. That's her words, so I have to put it in the quotes. And then I ended the quote and said, so and so said, savoring or taking a bite at her favorite cheesecake. So the editor read that and she asked me, "You can't see, right?" I said, "Yes, I can't see. But how do you know that this person was eating cheesecake?" I said, "Yeah, that's what she said." She. So a lot of people think that because you cannot see, you cannot observe. But that's wrong. You can observe in so many other ways. This is an example. So why I say this is because learn to describe, learn to create have an eye for details. And I use the word eye in a very, very deliberate way, because you don't have to have the physical eye to have the eye for details. Number 1. Number two is narrative, narration, description. The second one is narration. What is narration? Narration is nothing but action. He's walking, he's sitting, he's turning furiously at someone, consulting. If there is for example, I'll give you a political example. If there's a particular party where you don't know who's going to be the chief ministerial candidate, of course they won't come and tell you that we are having a dispute. There are so many discrete ways in which that there is actually a dispute happening. Maybe the language, maybe the way they talk, maybe the tone, maybe the way they furiously look at someone, their actions. So those are the places where action is important. Okay, how does it relate to copywriting, you might ask? Okay, think of I don't know how many people like me were able to see once upon a time and then lost their sight. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, there used to be this in the 1980s, the early 1980s, there used to be this little soap ad, and you would have heard the sound, the music, la 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 la. And actually in the scene, you see this woman just getting into a waterfall kind of a thing, and then she'd be like, you can see the delight on her face, absolute delight on her face. And then there is another ad that I remember is the Old Spice ad. They used to have this very intense sounding Western classical tune. And then there's a guy who is going on his yacht. And then, they kind of do a little bit of a juxtaposition, juxtapose that with a guy who is shaving and then splashing the aftershave on his chin. And, so it's also manly, so strong, so, virile. So why I say this is because, what I described to you right now is an action. So that's narrative. That's narrative for you. When somebody is narrating, they mean they are describing an action. Number three, dialogue. Okay, dialogue is basically what someone speaks. Okay, it's called dialogue attribution. Why attribution? Because you need to identify who said that. Without that, the piece of dialogue may be nothing. For example, quote unquote, I'm a fool. Okay, it may not mean anything to you. For example, if you say, I am a quote unquote, I am a fool, said the Prime Minister, we'll have a different context altogether, right? So you have to attribute the dialogue to somebody. Okay, so these are the three ingredients that you should have in order for you to make your writing effective. And that is absolutely necessary for writing copies. Okay. Now, the second and the most important skill again for you is to first identify the target audience that we saw earlier. But an extension of that would be to research your target audience. What are their likes and dislikes? Who are they? And what kind of music they listen to, or what kind of places they go to? What's their lifestyle? What's their the most important problem that they face? If you want to understand how to fine tune or how to narrow down your target audience, I would recommend you to go to Facebook ads. Facebook ads, if you look at Facebook ads, if you're fixing an ad, it will ask so many questions. Do you want people from India? Do you want people from South India? You want people between 18 and 35, or 35 to 60, or 60 to 95, whatever. So you take all those questions, go there and jot down all those questions. And then you apply that to any target, anything that you want. For example, we'll go back to that Brill Cream ad. Brill Cream is basically what? At the age of 18, I remember I was protesting at home. I didn't want to use the traditional coconut oil, because the coconut oil is very, very shiny, and it can sometimes, it can just streak, it can kind of, it can make your forehead very slick, you know. So a lot of ways in which it can smell sometimes. The smell is not particularly uh, uh, alluring. It's not like a perfume. It smells differently. It's a good smell, but still, uh, kids, we never liked as kids. So if you're talking about the 18-year-old who's a rebel, who's at home, a rebel, who wouldn't want to do anything that his father or mother says, he wants to be his own self. And then they hand over a coconut oil, a bottle of coconut oil, and then he says, no, who's going to use this? I'm not going to use this. I want a curly hair. I want my hair to be in a different style, and so on. Okay, so if that's your target audience, you should be able to understand the target audience. You should be able to research. Today, thanks to the search engines, you have so much to research about. Okay, so researching is another important skill that you need to have as a copywriter. Okay, first of all, the third one most important thing is, how do you make your content engaging? Okay, one of the problems that we have in this country is that we again mistake academics, writing for academics. Entertainment means we only think about commercial. It need not be. Even something like science can be made entertaining. Of course, they talk about information, education, entertainment. You don't really find all of them amalgamating in one content. You can amalgamate it. Okay, so the important thing is also to keep checking your writing and then see if it is engaging, or you can even get feedback from your friends or your what do you call in books. In book authoring, we have the beta reader. The beta reader is someone who will not betray you, who will not make your content viral. He'll keep it as a secret, but at the same time, he's very happy to read something and then give his feedback. So make sure that you get such feedbacks from people, especially your target audience, and make sure that it's both informative and engaging. Okay. The other thing is, all right, you said all this, it's wonderful, but what are the skills that a copywriter should have? He should know the right kind of tools to measure the outcome of his writing. That, some other writers, for example, I write articles for newspapers. I need not have that actually. Although even there, it's getting more and more relevant, because if I write an article and say 10,000 people have read it and they've shared it on social media, the way my boss looks at me would be very different. So that's very important. You need to understand how to measure the results, because these are result-oriented writing. These are commercial writing. These are result-oriented. You should be able to tell your clients tomorrow that, look, 10,000 people have read, 5,000 people have kind of shown a lot of inclination to buy your product, and maybe your sales has increased. And if they look at their sales, and if they find correspondingly an increment to their sales, they'll be very happily paying your fees, right? So that's the way it works. So you have to understand how to measure. Okay. So the other one, of course, is how to get, what do you call, how to sort of do a PR for yourself, public relations for yourself, how to sell yourself as a copywriter. That's another very important skill. See, there was an author coach that I was consulting before I wrote my book, and then he told me that he told me something very interesting. Subramani, can you write a one-page summary of your book? I was thinking, why should I do that? I've written almost 50,000 words of a book. Why should I do that? And he said, look, a literary agent or a publisher does not have time to just read everything that you wrote. The proof of the pudding is in the in tasting it, right? So if you have a one-page summary, and if that's persuasive enough, they'll buy your book. Okay. If you cannot write 1 page of content in a persuasive way, how are you going to write 50,000 words that's going to be persuasive? So you should understand that you should be able to sell yourself pretty well. If you don't sell yourself, how can you sell someone else's product? That's the question here. Okay. So the most important aspect of this that you should remember as a copywriter is to get testimonials. You do something, a successful campaign for someone, and end of all that, you go back to the client and the client is satisfied. You ask him to write a testimonial for you. Hey, I use Subramani services, and he's got me 10,000 more customers, and I had better sales because of his copywriting, and I highly recommend his copy. Something to that effect, and put it on your homepage or your internet page or your blog or something, where people just look at it and they're very, they're convinced, right? Right. So now, all right. Now the final point in this, the last and final point here is ability to network, ability to build networks. See, that's absolutely important. That's absolutely important, because I have all the skills. I can write. How am I going to find work? I'm not going to find work by just watching the the craft and commerce seminars and stuff like that, and keep on honing my skills, sharpening my skills. That's good, but you should reach out. How do you do that? These days, it's very easy. Go to LinkedIn and keep looking for the kind of agencies that you can write. Whoever is asking for a freelance copywriter, or whoever is asking for even a full-time writer, so apply for those jobs, and then whatever is the right kind of position for you. That whether you are at a beginning stage or an advanced stage or an intermediary stage, you can choose your level, and you can apply for a job, or else you can work as a freelancer, and then maybe your success rate speaks for itself, and they may hire you. Okay. So now let's go to some of the other aspects of copywriting. Okay. So what else you need to do as a successful copywriter? Okay. I must confess that, if you ask me to write a persuasive copy, I can do. If you ask me to write a very well-crafted copy, I can do. But there are other skills that I need to master myself, and I'm at it. While I'm talking to you, I'm also at it. What are these skills? Okay, let's talk about it. Developing a unique voice. You can develop a unique voice for yourself. I mean, in the sense, when you talk about voice, it means the tone of language in which you write. Okay, it's not the physical, it's not the sound that you get from your larynx. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, your copy should be uniquely, it should be toned in a very unique way. It should be presented in a very unique way. That's called the voice. And it's not your voice and my voice that matters, because you're writing for a client, and you should know whether that client's aspirations, ideas, approach to problem solving, the kind of products he deals with, all these put together, he has a certain voice of his own. So when you write, you should be able to understand his voice. Developing a voice here equals developing a voice for your client, not about you. Okay. And then the other thing that you should absolutely remember is storytelling. Okay. I can take actually a different, probably a whole hour on storytelling. But storytelling in the context of a brand is very, very interesting, and it's very important. Okay. So what do I mean by storytelling? Okay. I told you a story, right? An 18-year-old boy who's rebelling against his parents. He wants to be his own person. He knows that he's dependent on his parents, and he kind of doesn't like the fact. Somehow, he wants to just he's hurrying to just finish his college and get out and become work and then earn his own money, so that his father won't look at him in a very critical way all the time, and then he can establish. So all these are stories. So if you're creating a brand around this story, that's appealing to youngsters, right? So that becomes your unique brand. And then this story fits into the brand. So imagine, instead of doing this, you just talk about, in a very, what do you call the lecture, in a way of delivering a lecture, you could talk, we are catering to youngsters. We want youngsters to be, who's going to listen to you, you think? Nobody. So a persuasive brand is something that has a persuasive story. A story, again, has a lot of elements in it. You talk about conflict, you talk about winning and defeat, you talk about pride, you talk about a lot of emotions in that brand, okay, in that story. So when you more emotions in your story, more emotions in your brand, and greater connectivity that people will, your target audience will have. Okay, so storytelling is something that you need to understand. Okay, all right. So let's. All right. So I have to talk about two more things here, which is probably very important. I'm going to leave you with these two sort of aspects of copywriting. Whatever I spoke about, there are two things. One, I spoke about the form, and then I spoke about the substance. Okay, the form is all about writing, persuasive writing, the writing your sentences well, action, narration, description. All these are about forms. And then I also spoke about, persuasion, emotion, storytelling, developing a voice, so on and so forth. These are style and substance. Okay, the last 2 points that I'm going to talk about are also about the style, the craft, not about the substance, which is about the content itself. Okay. The first one is editing and proofreading. There is a book by itself called self-editing. Okay, self-editing is a craft that every writer, whether it's a book writer or a copywriter or an article writer or any writer, should do, because something's going in your name, and it has to be going in a certain style, in a certain manner, so that people will take you seriously, right? In newspapers, we have what's called a style guide. We see that whether the articles that come to us are actually conforming to the style guidelines. You cannot write you don't write don't, no abbreviations. You have to write everything in full. You have to have a certain comma, full stop, certain number of words in a sentence. All these are part of the style guide. Okay, you use English English, British English, not the American. So organized is SC and not ZD. So all these are part of style. Okay, so that is, you need to recheck, and that's why you use editing and proofreading. Okay, that's a very, very important aspect of your copywriting. Okay, the last one, of course, is ethical and legal issues. See, this is okay. This may not be exactly the copy, the style or the craft, but this is basically important for you, because you should know what are you doing. Sometimes I'll give you an example. We don't do something which is outright illegal. We know that where there's a black and white delineation or difference, we know how to handle that. But there are ethical questions about, say, for example, an e-cigarette. Tobacco may be banned, but some people say e-cigarette is good. Some people say e-cigarette is bad. Some people say that the genetically modified food is good, genetically modified food is bad. So you don't know what is good and what is bad. So you should have a general understanding of what is ethical and legal and what is not ethical, and not legal. One of the decisive thing that you should understand, one of the most important thing that you should understand is that whatever you write about is factually correct to the best of your knowledge. Okay. Suppose if I'm talking about a product which will, for example, a perfume, which is I'm telling my audience that if you use this perfume, it stays fresh, at 8 in the night or 8 in the evening. If you apply it in the morning, you have the fragrance following you the whole day. And supposing if it doesn't, but then you'll have to think about it, because it also concerns your credibility. How do you think people will buy something that you are promoting in case what you're promoting is not up to the quality standards? So that is one thing. The other thing also, ethically, you cannot be. I remember some of my friends, who are very proud of the fact that you give me garbage, and I'll be able to sell it. I'll be able to build a brand and sell it. It's a good skill. It's a good skill. I'm not saying it's a bad skill, but you should understand that you can never sell garbage as something else. Garbage is a garbage. Okay, so it is also about the welfare of the people that you are, you're dealing with here. Okay, they're not your toys. They're not your experimental tools. They deserve your honesty. So that's something that you should remember, because if you don't, and if someone takes you to the court, then you're answerable there. Consumer courts are there for this reason only. You make a claim, and if that claim turns out to be false, they will drag you to the court. So that you should remember in terms of ethical. And the final other point that you should know is how to charge your work. Okay, there are ways in which you can charge your work, especially if you're going to have a word count. You say that I charge 5 rupees per word, or 2 rupees per word, or 3 rupees per word, or I charge 1,000 rupees per article. So you should learn what works for you and keep a tariff ready. If you're a freelancer, definitely it is the case. If you work for an agency, but that's a different matter. But if you're a freelancer, you should be able to have how much you're going to charge, how do you negotiate your charge with your client is important. Also, this is out of my experience. Don't write thinking that you finish and then you get the whole money. Sometimes you don't get it that way. Demand 50% of your fee upfront, and then you write. Only then the client will also be serious. And once you get the 50%, you give 50% of the work, and then ask for the other 50% to give the whole work. Okay, these are ways in which you can make sure that you get the full money from the client. Otherwise, there are people who get the work done from you. They don't pay you. It's not their fault. It's your fault. You should understand that also, because that's the way industry works. You should be careful about it. Okay, so that's where I'm going to end. And I hope this is of some use to you. And, if you have questions, if you have any doubts or clarifications or comments, most welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a question to begin with. You talked about writing, and so copywriting, the principles that you talked about, I think applies to any form of writing, even if you're writing about your organization, or you're writing about an issue that you're concerned with. I think this persuasion and engagement and factual authenticity. I think everything that you mentioned, to my mind, even to market it, the using of networks and all that is, to my mind, relevant. So I think while you say copywriting, which strictly the word copywriting is associated with advertising and marketing and sales, but I think it is applies across the board. These principles of writing. If nobody reads it, then there's no point in writing. But the question I have for you is, Subbu, is as young people, as visually impaired people looking for writing opportunities, can you kind of share a few opportunities that people can look for?
Yeah. See, first of all, let me tell you, you are absolutely right about in a way the copywriting tools that can apply to all the other forms of writing also. But you should understand that in advertisement or in content marketing or copywriting, especially direct response and all that, persuasion is not a theory. Persuasion has to work, because it means you have to keep honing your skills. You have to keep working on your skills so much that it works absolutely the way you expect it to work. So most of the times, if I am writing an article, for example, I can just inform and get away. Okay, sometimes, okay, yeah, I may have to talk about how, for example, technology is changing, transforming the lives of people who disabled. That's a constant problem that I had, because you talk about blind people in a newspaper, everybody thinks that, okay, it's about inspiration and all that. It's fine, but I may have to be a little more persuasive there. I got your point there. But the thing is, I can just inform and leave the persuasion, leave them to kind of understand the import of my article the way they want. But I can't do that here. Here, I have to really make sure that, hey, this has a certain fragrance which you will enjoy or something like that. And then, they get the fragrance right when they read the copy. And that fragrance and the words and everything else that I'm writing there kind of lingers in their minds. And then when they cross the perfume stores, and they just enter and buy it. So that's the difference here. Okay. Yeah, see, the thing is, the opportunities are everywhere. I'll tell you, this is statistics that I was reading. The gig economy, the e-market, the e-commerce market on the internet across the globe is going to reach 27 trillion in 2028. Okay, it is growing now. It's valued at about 6 trillion. Okay, and it's growing at a phenomenal pace, which means there is a need for copywriters. Good, high quality, excellent copywriters exist right at this second, and the need is only growing. Okay, so how do you identify that? There are 3 ways that I'll tell you how to get the opportunity. How to find opportunities. One is talking to the agencies. There are ad agencies, there are content marketing agencies. They regularly require people, because it's also a very high attrition industry, where you have a skillful person today, that person resigns and goes to a place where they get a bigger responsibility or higher pay. So there's always constant vacancies here. So definitely the agencies can be something that you can approach. All that you need to do is to go to LinkedIn, then keep searching for content marketing, copywriting, and content writing services. You get a bunch of results, and I'm sure thanks to pandemic, there are opportunities that are also remote. You don't have to come to the on-site, the workplace at all. Okay, so that is number 1. Number 2, just go to a local stores or a neighborhood newspaper, and then offer your services there. You understand what's a neighborhood newspaper? Where you live, for example, that small area may have a local newspaper. That's not very popular in India, but I'm sure that's happening also in many places. So okay, you target a particular industry or a business or a sector that's very active in that place, and you make offer your services there. That's another way. That was basically these are freelance copywriting opportunities that you can do. And once you get results, don't forget to get the testimony from your client. Number 2. Number 3 is that online, if you go to freelancers.com or Upwork, all these places constantly advertise content or copywriting services requirements. So that's another way you can get you can get to the places where you can find opportunities to write.
Yeah, anybody else wants to ask questions? Can unmute yourself and ask the question. Yeah.
Yeah, Subramani, I would like to ask a question.
Yep.
I have been studying copywriting for a while, although I have not done any work
Okay.
professionally. I've mostly done journalism. So most of the people from whom I have learned are American, of course, and they have told us that you should always have some spec ads ready to show your first client. And that's why I'm stuck. Somehow I haven't created that yet. So, they have mostly said that you should create some spec ads and get
Mhm.
them designed by a designer and use that as the starting point to get some work. So do
Yeah.
you think that works here in India? In India, I don't somehow like working with agencies, and I've heard many bad experiences of people. They don't pay someone. These things happen a lot here, from what I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah, that is true. That
That's
is
very
very true.
common
Yes.
here
Yes.
in India. With newspapers also, I mean, with both journalism and copywriting and content. But abroad, it is much better. Like many Indians are writing for people abroad, just like I do for journalism. So I
Yeah.
don't want to target people here actually, because I know it's a very difficult situation if they don't pay you after
No, it's, I
you've
wouldn't
done
say,
the
see,
work.
that's a situation in common, but I would say that not, okay, you're talking about a majority or probably
Yeah,
by
most
and
of them
large,
do. I've heard.
but there are
Yeah.
people who pay you also. Some agencies, for example, you have reputed agencies, they pay you
Hmm.
for your copywriting work, so that's fine. So for example, uh, I don't want to take any names here because
Yeah,
that will be very biased, but I, the most
there
reputed
would be
agencies
some.
are
Yeah,
the best.
yeah, yeah,
They will pay you well, and so you can create specs for yourself. That's how
yeah,
even I started. Sometimes, when
yeah.
I wrote a lot of imaginary copies
Copy.
about I my favorite is health industry, health and wellness.
Okay,
So you
okay,
talk about this your he cracks in the heel, or you can talk about beauty products, and how to what do you call, the powders and stuff. So there are lots of ways in which
Mhm.
you can create your own spec.
Yeah,
I only suggest that you do it in an industry or a sector in which you have knowledge, and also something that you like to do. Because
right.
here
Yeah,
you cannot afford to be experimental, especially when you're creating a spec. And also you decide whether you're writing for B2B or B2C, because
hmm.
that's another difference that people sometimes forget.
Yeah,
See, you're writing B2B, you're talking about a machine, you're talking about something that only companies buy
yes,
from other companies. So
yeah,
you should, if you're good at that, you should know how to sort of position yourself that way. So
yeah,
creating specs is also about letting people know which are the places, areas you are good at, which are the industries and sectors you're good at.
yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, anybody else would like to ask?
Yes, am I audible now?
Yep.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. I mean,
Good
good
afternoon.
evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Actually, to be honest, like the session is wonderful. Of course. Actually, to begin with my introduction, I'm doing my BBA in Bangalore.
Okay.
So that, as you explained, copyright. So, I mean, while explaining, you've mentioned some authors with along their books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we get those ebooks or books? Like, where can we able to find out all those books and all, as you mentioned?
See, one is I told you. See, Dr. Joe Vitale. You
Yeah.
find Dr. Joe Vitale in your bookshare.
Okay.
Okay, and most of the other authors are okay, you write to me privately, maybe I'll give you the list. You can get most of them on Amazon,
Okay.
or even some of them are on Audible also.
Yeah. And one more question I'm having, can I?
Yeah,
Go
please,
ahead.
please go ahead.
Yeah, as you explained in copyright, I mean copyright and all, there is a, like, how can you connect with trademark?
No, you're confusing copyright, COPYRIGHT, with COPYWRITE.
Okay.
Copywriting is not copyright. Copyright is basically it is put in a letter C, put between brackets. in parenthesis, that's copyright. Copyright is I own the right to this copy or this book or this creative product that I'm putting out. For example, if it's a digital product, I own the copyright, which means nobody else can use this product without my knowledge or permission. They cannot download or exchange or save or whatever. Okay, so that's different. That's copyright. Okay, this is copywriting. Copywriting is basically, as I told you, writing copies that are meant for selling products, services, or maybe selling, newsletters, encouraging people to sign into newsletters, joining an event or whatever, So they are basically persuasive kind of writing that allows organizations and people to reach out to more people and have more clients and audience. Okay, so they are different, essentially different, that you should understand.
Finally, I'm having a question. So that's my
Go
final question. The question is when you're, while you're speaking regarding styling and substances, right?
Yeah.
So there's, as you said, while you're speaking, voice matters and like in communication thing, all those things are matters. Even your body language as well. So being I supposed to ask this question because of, I'm daily facing these issues. So that I'm asking.
Go ahead. Don't be shy about asking anything, man. No problem. You want to talk about a blindness? I'm very happy to answer. Go ahead.
Yeah. Being a blind, how you're managing your body language while you're speaking or like while you're communicating with other strangers or anyone else? How you're managing?
First of all, this is a small technique that I would teach you all. See, being a blind person, sometimes we all get into this bad habit. What is a bad habit? That we get inward, we go inward. Okay, we don't understand the fact that other people are watching us. Okay, imagine you are sitting in a hall or sitting in among the audience, and you're the only person who is blind, who's got a white stick. People are going to watch you. Okay, so how do you move yourself? How do you, you sit in a certain position that is proper. You can't put, cross your leg. I'm not saying you should not. I'm not saying that because you're blind, you should be in a certain way. I'm saying that because people observe you, and by observation, people can make certain conclusions about you, which may be entirely wrong. You should, be aware of it all the time. Am I presenting myself properly? Keep asking this question. Am I sitting properly? Am I talking to people properly? A little bit of self-examination will allow you to understand that in public, especially where the attention is more on you, you carry out yourself in a way in which you're not looking either very different from others, or you're kind of appearing in a way in which you don't appear as part of the whole crowd. Okay, so that's where the dress sense, the choice of colors of your shirt, the matching shirts, the everything else, your appearance, everything else is important. Okay, have that awareness, have the awareness that others are watching you, and there is a need for you to present yourself in a proper way. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
One of the things, talking about staying with the subject of body language, when you can't see things around you, you tend to start slouching and looking down.
Yes.
That's something which comes, or if you have partial vision, you tend to lean forward, and that becomes a part of your personality, leaning forward and bending down, So,
Yes.
And the other thing is, the need for looking at people while you speak to them. We'll wonder, we don't see the person, so what's the big idea in looking at him? But the point is, other people, that's looking at somebody, it's part of the communication where you're letting the person know that you're speaking to him and you're listening to him or her. So I think this is something which I think as your eyesight keeps deteriorating, you need to be conscious about, because I also find myself sometimes tending to look down. And I'd remind myself, look, that guy is talking to you, you look at him, and I think this is something which we need to be conscious of.
Yeah. And, you keep your eyes wide open, as George was saying, mainly because you may not have eye contact with that person. You think that, I'm blind. How can I have eye contact? You don't have to. If you keep your eyes open, they'll have eye contacts with you. And then, they kind of look at you as not very different from themselves. That's very important.
So if there are no more questions, maybe I put off the recording. A lot of what you said was very useful, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks to Score Foundation. Thanks to Eyeway and your team. I'll be very happy to sort of have a similar kind of conversation in future in case that's required, and especially you can promote it for writers. Because one thing that I kind of could not do until now is to connect with people, A, who have aspiration for writing, and B, who are kind of having some kind of established writing credentials, but not able to progress any further. So maybe that would be a very good conversation also in future in case that's required. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm really, really happy to be here and sharing my whatever little experience I have. Thank you.
Thank you.